My name is Neil Meechan. I'm the Innovation Lead at Farm Urban, and this is a new podcast series looking at social value leaders and innovators within the construction sector. So the first guest for 2025 is Danielle Doherty of Vinci. Welcome, Danielle.
Hi, Neil.
And so for the next 45 minutes, we want to talk all things social value and just get a sense about Danielle and her role as social value leader at Vinci. So welcome, Danielle, to the farm.
Thanks.
Second time here.
Yeah, I'm glad to see it again. It's been a while since I've been here.
Yeah, thank you. It's lovely to have you here. So the reason for bringing you back is because when you first came to see us last summer, you made quite an impression on me in terms of how you approach social value at Vinci, your ideas and your insights, and obviously knowing that you're sort of quite active, like all over the UK, doing public talks and interviews and just spreading the good word about social value. So yeah, I'd just like to open a little bit by talking about your personal and your professional journey. So maybe start to talk us about your personal journey into social value, and what inspired you to take on the role at Vinci.
Okay, so I come from Liverpool. So I was born and bred in Liverpool. I moved into Manchester for 6 years, and then I decided to come back. But I started my career. I left school, had 1 or 2 qualifications, didn't really know what I wanted to do. School wasn't really my favourite place to be. But someone advised me to go and do hairdressing because I think it's something that I might like.
Things have clearly changed a little bit.
I don't think they really knew me as a person when they gave me that advice. So I did it because I didn't know what else to do. When I qualified as a hairdresser, done that for 3 years. Decided I really didn't like it. It just wasn't me. It didn't suit my personality or nothing. I went and done a bit of retail for a few years, and then I applied. I thought I'd like to work in like an office environment. I liked working with computers. I like technology. So I applied for a maternity role in Vinci building, and just covering reception and post room. So when I first started in Vinci, nearly 18 years ago now,
Wow.
I would. In the old days, we had big sacks of post that had come in for the whole of the office. It's about 250 people in the office. So I'd get 3 big sacks every morning that I'd have to sort out into little mailboxes and post, and then I'd have to walk around the office and deliver it. So that's where I very first started. Then that maternity leave ended and I just applied for another role. So I was working in office administration, and then I've just kept applying for different roles because I wasn't really me, so I enjoyed it. I learned from that role, and then I thought, well, I'll try this and see what I learn from this, see if there's something that I like a bit more in this. So I've done that. So I've done administration, done estimating assistant. I tried that for a bit. That's when I got more into the construction side. Done business development for a while, and then I took my role as was called CSR manager about 9-10 years ago.
Okay. Maybe we can touch on that in a little bit, how maybe CSR, what was CSR, maybe sort of brought in social value a little bit. We need to touch on a little bit more later. So it sounds like I remember now the conversation when we first met, because I was really intrigued by the journey from, because when we're in school, like, you don't know at that age really what you want to do. And like, it's interesting about like a lot of social value people, they've sort of not fallen into it, but there hasn't been no clear pathway because it didn't exist when we were younger.
And it's sort of why I wanted to do the job as well when it came up, because it was a new job, and our director asked me, do I want to apply for it when it come up, because there's no one with experience in social value. It was a new role and everyone was just learning, so we thought we might as well learn as we go. But one of my first things that I wanted to do was that career advice piece part of social value. So that was my first passion, is making sure that we're engaging with the schools and we're shouting about all the roles within construction. Because if you go into any school, no teacher talks about construction, because I think it's sort of looked at as a lower grade role working in the industry. But it's quite one of the highest paid industries in the UK. So and there's so many different roles, and roles for people who like working with the hands, people who like working with technology, and people who like management and business, and a really big variety of roles. And why not tell everyone about that and let them know where they could go to?
So where do you feel like, just touching on that particular point, like the disconnect where, where it's not seen in the general sense, maybe in your, obviously your perception that you know better than me, why it's not like an attractive industry to move into? Because I agree, there's a lot of
A lot of
opportunity,
stigma, isn't
a lot of
it?
stigma, and there's a lot of development going on within the UK at the moment. So, like you say, really well paid roles.
I
So,
think it's a lack of knowledge on the schools side. I think well, and if you ask young people to say, what do you think of construction? Laying bricks, and that's all they think about. Construction is laying bricks, plastering, painting. But there's so many more roles within construction to that, and you just need to educate people on what they are.
yeah, interesting. Okay, we'll touch on that a little bit more in a little bit, because I want to get a little bit of a sense of think about Vinci. Like, who are they as a company? I know them as one of the leading construction firms in the UK, but tell me a little about them and the philosophy and the mission.
It's so Vinci. Yeah, you would look at it as like a massive company, but when you're working within that company, you don't feel like it's a massive company on a day-to-day basis. Um, Although we're not a small family company, it feels like working in a family company, if you get what I
I
mean.
understand, yeah.
That's why I've been there for so long.
Yeah. It's interesting, like saying you've been there for, given your sort of career path and how long you've been with them, because a lot of sort of maybe the younger generation now, I mean, I say, for myself, I jump every 2 years, and I was with HSBC for maybe 15 years in a previous life, but since it's like I've worked all over the place, and so to have that commitment and that loyalty, you don't see that very, very often anymore, I don't feel.
No, I don't think you do. But like I remember we went to an interview once as a tender, and there was 5 of us in the room, and I think we had 100 years within
Yeah,
Vinci
wow.
between us. And so yeah, it is quite a common theme within the business.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's what makes it such a successful business as well.
It's got that sustainability
Yeah.
of and talent retention,
Yeah,
and
and
continuation.
everyone's bought into the values of the company because they've lived and breathed it for that long.
So out of the values that you're aware of with Vinci, which one would you say is for you the most important for you personally?
So we've got a few values, but I'd say integrity. Integrity. So we've got honesty, integrity, and a few others. But I think integrity is being honest, and I think that's what works well for us. So being honest with our clients, if something's not going to work, we won't leave it until last minute panic stations that this isn't going to work. We'll be open with our clients and we're honest. Listen, this is not going to work, but we can do this. So give them the alternatives. I think that's what makes us successful.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's in everything, not just construction and social value.
Yeah. That's a nice segue, given you're here to talk about social value. So I want to talk about the sort of Vinci and social value, and you'll come in as a CSR lead or manager, whatever your role was back in the day with CSR. But talk about how social value has evolved within Vinci itself, when the role came in and the evolution of the team, and tell me about the social value team, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail around social value itself. So yeah, tell me about Vinci and social value.
So we started about 9-10 years ago, and we started with a spreadsheet, as always, and we had these KPIs. We'd been introduced to a lot of frameworks where social value started being implemented. So first thing that we did was look at what our clients and customers were asking for, what did they want, and not just that, what can we actually deliver. We're not going to put ourselves out and try and give a challenge of something that we cannot deliver, because it's absolutely pointless creating key performance indicators around that.
Of course.
So we had to take that into account. So we had our set KPIs, and then we targets. We know, as a construction company, I think everyone had always delivered social value in some kind of form before it was called social value.
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing a leaflet before as we just started, and it was from our MD. He was a construction manager, I think, at that point. I was in a school in Liverpool and delivering some engineering tasks. This was before social value was even created. So we'd always done a bit of it. We just never recorded it and never called it social value. I think we'd done it because we had that passion to teach young people and get the next generation into the sector, because we love construction. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Wow.
So that was part of it. So taking that realization that we'd always done it, we just needed to start recording it and doing it a little bit more. So that was the first realization. So yeah, spreadsheet set up for every project. It was quite a little bit magical. We put the project value in, and then it told us what our targets would be for every project. And I took that, once I created that spreadsheet, and then shared it out across all the regions within the country, and got them to start doing it on their projects. I supported them as well. And we got to a point where we thought, this is quite time consuming.
Yeah.
About 3-4 years in, time consuming, because one of the most time consuming bits was looking at our labour and where our labour's come from. So I think the industry has changed a bit. So we would just get labour from wherever to fulfil construction projects' need. I think social value has changed that a lot, where now we're making sure that our labour is coming from the county, local authority boundary where the project is.
Nice.
And if they can fulfil that need. So that's changed. So at the start, we'd have to put every single person who's been inducted onto a project postcode.
Wow.
So you can imagine, on these large construction projects, this could be 600 to 1,000 people.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. So that was the most time consuming bit, and I had to look at that and think, how can we make this easier for people to do? How do we usually capture this? And all these years ago, we were still doing paper inductions, and we're still at that stage. So it was where we was at, but then we had to think, how do we work smarter? How do we get that better? So we went into like automated data. So turnstiles on our construction projects, so people register beforehand, put all of the information in, and then that data is pulled into that system. So we no longer had to put postcodes in anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was the first win that we could see, and then we just took automated data then and looked, where do we have automated data that fits in with social value data, and how can we pull that into one place so we're not filling in spreadsheets if we do not need to. So that's how we got to where we are today.
It's something that, again, when we first met, that impressed me, because me being an innovation lead, and that's my work, is like good leadership is asking questions like, how can we do this better? Like, is there a better way? What's more efficient? And really pushing that, to, because nobody likes filling in spreadsheets at the end of the day.
I don't know what it is. That's just me. If I look at something and think that could be done easier, it's my brain. I think, why are we doing it like this? That takes too long. We need to do this better. And I look at everything like that.
But it's interesting, because you sort of take it for granted, but not everybody is like that. No, it's like when you've worked in the workforce as long as what we have, that's not a normal way of approaching things.
No.
Again, so it sort of jumped out at me when we first met. Wow. So how big's the team now? Like nationally?
So there's 7 of us all together. So I became head of social value last year. We'd already had a few people in place within the regions, but then we've recruited more people.
Nice. So it's becoming a lot more of a focus.
Yes.
And is there an intention to continue to grow the team?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. It's interesting speaking to different. I think I've spoken to every construction company, tier one construction company anyway. There's a real focus on social value and growing the teams out. Some more than others,
Yeah.
and not all social value teams are created equally, from what I've seen. Um, but
Just to say, every construction company has a different delivery model.
yeah, I found
You
that.
found that?
Yeah, it's been interesting because like as a social enterprise and someone who wants to support through our work social value with construction, there's no like one size fits all. So
No.
it's in an ideal world, each company is the same and you can support everyone in the same way, but it's not being like that at all. Yeah. So why do you feel that is? Like, well, because social value is social value, and you know, like say 6 firms are going for a particular contract with the local authority, so it still needs to be delivered social value. But it's interesting how like all these different firms have got different ways of doing things. Why do you feel that is?
I think it might be the way they look at it. So I say some companies would say we've got a social value manager, they're delivering all the social value. That is their job. Where I think you're missing a lot of skills and personalities, which makes social value what it is.
Yeah.
So the way we do it is we have social value managers, which are managing social value delivery. They're making connections with local charities, local schools, and recording what's being delivered.
Yeah.
And getting our project teams set up. But we want our project managers to engage with young people and talk about their employment story. We want our apprentices talking to young people to inspire them. If we just had one social value manager, we'd have loads of young people who wanted to get into social value and the jobs wouldn't be there. So I think you have to have other people's skills and personalities to support social value delivery to make it the best that it can be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because there's a lot of passionate people within the sector, like working within Vinci. Why not utilize them? Because it's a cultural thing, I suppose. Like your internal culture around, I suppose, other members of the organization really putting the value on social value, and it helps to build legacy, and a new breed of staff coming in, among many other things, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember when we first started this 10 years ago, a lot of people were like, well, this isn't my job. That's your job at social value. But now we're at the stage where we'll have the project teams are like, they're relating to the young people and because they start to think, oh, that's where I started.
Yeah.
If I would have had a little bit more help with this, I could have maybe got to where I was faster or whatever. And they're recognising that the value of them just talking to someone, giving someone some advice, that brings, which it's a really good place to be at.
I don't know why when you're talking about that, it's giving me the fuzzies a little bit, because it feels like something that we've lost within Western culture and Western society is this connection to, a project manager might only be 28, so I don't want to say elders, because you don't have to be 60 to be an elder. So it's almost like mentorship as well, where we've sort of, there's a bit of a disconnect now. I mean, it exists, but in a general sense, we've lost that connection with young people to help them and bring them through.
Yeah.
And re-establishing that, like, is something that's really important, and social value as a vehicle for that.
Yeah, and sharing them skills as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're not going to get them by reading books or,
no.
You know what I mean? It's personal skills, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, personal skills. Because it's not just about bricklaying or project managing or carpentry or joinery. Like, there's other soft skills as well, that's really important.
Yeah, it's like if that project team doesn't work as a team, doesn't support each other on a daily basis, you're not delivering the job like you could do. You know what I mean? It's quite important. It's not just putting bricks and mortar together.
No, it's not. It's a lot more than that. Yeah. A successful team is not just about skills, it's also about connection, collaboration, teamwork.
Oh, yeah, you see it like the best of our teams. You go onto site and you just see they've all got the kitchen set up how everyone wants it, so they can all make the lunch, and they're all supporting each other, asking each other if they're okay, and you just you can feel the warmth when you go into it. And what are most successful projects?
It's palpable.
Yeah.
You can walk into a room. When I first walked into Farm Urban, it's here. It's in the fabric of the people in the building. It's got that it's like a special sauce
Yeah.
that you can nurture and you can cultivate, but when it's there, you can feel it. I agree. Interesting. Thank you for sharing. I want to go a little bit deeper though into social value and sort of the shift in landscape, because Farm Urban's been involved in delivering social value and supporting companies delivering social value for a couple of years. But for me personally, coming into Farm Urban last year, it's quite new for me, but I've probably done a deeper dive more so than anyone else here around the industry. I've been to some conferences. I've had lots and lots of conversations with delivering social value. But it seems like, since the Act came in 2012, it's a shift in landscape and it feels like it's on the precipice of a change. And so, I suppose what I'll ask you is, how have you seen the social value movement evolve in a broader sense? I don't mean for Vinci, but like in a broader sense, because you're well tuned in, I would say.
Yeah, so since the Social Value Act came out 2012, I don't think it actually got brought to real life till 2013. I think it was just things that we could do, and there was no real. I think everyone looked at it and think, how do we do this? It was acts that come in, and I was thinking how we can do this. So I think at the start, everyone was just basically dipping their toes into find out what works for them, because there's some of it that as a construction company we can't actually do, because we're a moving construction company.
Yeah.
We're not just in one place and we're there for 25 years, a year or 2 years, and then we're on to the next project, wherever that is. And I don't think when the Social Value Act was created, that wasn't thought about.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
So I think at the start there was a lot of local authorities and clients asking, we want you to employ somebody, and we want you to keep them employed for so long. It's like, yes, we can do that, but if they don't want us to move to the next project, it could be more beneficial for them to move to another contractor that's within the industry.
Yeah.
That way, instead of us dragging them to Blackpool from Manchester,
Yeah.
which nobody wants to do. It's not good for mental health, it's not good for the environment. So I think that was the biggest thing that everyone realised at the start. So we can't make these big commitments around employing local people for so many years. And the industry as well, it's the construction industry, there's a lot of people who are self-employed. So we could offer these people full-time employment and to work with Vinci. They might not want to do that. I think that was a big realisation. What they're telling us to do, people might not want to. People might want to stay self-employed. They might not want to work full-time, and they might. So I think that's been a big realisation, is everyone understanding the industry, how we work, and how we can deliver social value.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, any significant milestones with social value as a movement as a whole that you've observed that's been a bit of a, well, not a bit, but more of a catalyst for kicking it forward? So, like the new procurement tax that that's recently come into play. Like, is there anything else that you've seen with, like, this is really changing the game here? It might even be like conferences or
I think it's just knowledge sharing.
Yeah.
And knowledge sharing, I don't know, as contractors we all collaborate and we all work together. And again, with our clients and local authorities, us inform them what can actually be delivered. And I think a lot has changed as what we're actually doing. Was it benefiting the people as social value should be? Or was it just a quick fix that's not really leaving a lasting legacy of support for people? So I think that has changed a lot. I think we're looking at things a bit smarter and awesome. Looking at the benefits. So before, we're just going to do this because we've been asked, Social Value Act says we need to do this. I think we're all taking a bit of control and saying, oh, that's not working, so we're not going to do that, even though that says we should do that, but we think this works better and this is what we're going to do.
This is part of see, this is again touching on like why I wanted to bring you back and interview you, because it's like that. I'm not saying it's rebellious, but it is countercultural in a way, because obviously you're presented with a framework or this, and maybe in the past there'd be box ticking, but there's again, going back to Excel spreadsheets, there's a better way of doing this. How can we do it better? Who ultimately is going to benefit? Because it's the communities that are being served are the ones that really should be benefiting, rather than what like a framework or something else is. So that's one of the things that again really jumped out at me about you, is pushing the boundaries and pushing the needle of what can be done.
Yeah,
it's so obvious when you think about it.
Like I think people appreciate it. That's what I've learned over the years. I will say, if I will not waste my time if I know something's not going to work or it's pointless. It really bugs me to waste my time to actually do it. But I found over the years a lot of people are open to that honest conversation and appreciate it. If you say that something's not going to work and it's not really benefiting, but what we could do it this way. And I know it's a little bit rebellious, but I think it's worth it.
Well, I mean, I use the word rebellious. I suppose it's putting a more positive slant on it. It's pushing the boundaries. Who said just because something exists, it has to be that way, when there's always better ways of doing things? Again, this is with my innovation head on, because I'm very much like you. But it's really good to hear that there's an openness there, because, when you said the social value, the act, well, it came in 2013, even though it says 2012, it just landed on people. It's like, okay, well,
yeah, but no insight on what to do. Yeah.
But the beauty of it, for me, is the fact that there is still that, there's the flex in it, because it's not like it's set in stone. I mean, there's frameworks, don't get me wrong, but it's not set in stone and rigid and dogmatic. No. You have to do this, because it is still in its infancy. It's not even juvenile yet. You can shape it and change it, and there's people who are open. Like I think about there's a wonderful woman here who's social value manager at the Liverpool City Region Combined Authority, Lucy, and she's similar to you, just really trying to change how things are done in a bit of a different way, so it's more beneficial and collaborative. And it's interesting because I'm interested to hear about this from you, because you're obviously working with your subbies, your subcontractors. Like there's tier 1 construction firms collaborating together on social value, which you wouldn't see in any other industry, where there's something being delivered like around social value, because there's a competitive element. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there is, but when you think about who's the beneficiaries,
it's the community.
It's the community.
Yeah.
So if we can work together and deliver more benefit to the community, it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Of course.
There's no competition that comes in it, and but as companies, we're all learning from each other at the same time, so we are getting something out of it, but bringing bigger benefit to the community. And just when you were talking before about how social value is not rigid, I don't think it can ever be.
Why?
Because the changing UK landscape of where we are at the minute and where we could be in 5 years could be totally different. And social value has to change to support that. So social value is delivered all around the deprivation and different issues that different parts, local authorities have. And that changes all the time. So if it was like an affluent area when more deprived, you'd have to deliver different social value to support them deprivation indexes.
Yeah.
So I don't think social value can ever be made rigid. This is what you're doing, this is what you're doing. Because different parts of the country, different local authority boundaries, you have to deliver differently. So that was my thought on that. You could have rigid KPIs, but if you, just going back to, if you're looking to get people into construction and you went to deliver a construction project in a really affluent area, you'd struggle to get people into construction, because a lot of these people, they're not unemployed, they're all working and they're already earning money and not looking for work. So you couldn't say, oh, we're going to employ 100 unemployed people from this area, because that wouldn't work. You'd have to look at how you can do it differently.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, because again, not all local authority or whatever, it's created equally. Wow,
Yeah,
I've never really thought about it like that. You have got to be, that's also it. Coming back to
to be
like
adaptable.
the being adaptable, it's the people who become social value practitioners. It reminds me, because my work is in entrepreneurship and innovation, is that it's like almost like I see like similar skill set and mindset, because in a traditional construction firm, it can be hierarchical. People know what they're doing, why they're doing it, and in a particular way. But as a social value manager, it's very different, because again, like you say, it's you can never be rigid. You've always got to be thinking about ideas, different ways of doing things, that flexibility, that adaptability, resilience. It's a totally different skill set that you don't often see within the construction sector,
No.
because you do this particular job in this particular way. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Am I on the right track with
Yeah,
that?
you are. I do have a lot of people who come to me and say, some people want a process. So to do this, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And some people want me to write them a process and how to do something. And it's like, I can't, because it's not always like that. it's if you took that and took it to a different area, it won't be that.
Yeah.
I'd have to rewrite it. And I think we just have to be open-minded and think on the go.
Yeah. Ambiguity.
Yeah.
Be comfortable with it. Have you ever thought about becoming an entrepreneur? Because it's like the way that you think and the way that you are, it's like it really lends itself well. You know, I worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, and I can see it's really, I can see the comparison between entrepreneurs and social value managers, because often, and maybe this will change, and hopefully this will change, is that you're often working with limited resource. Like some of the social value managers and directors, they're doing so much just in one particular role, because there's not lots of money or available. It's like you're doing things on the smell of an oily rag. I mean, you've got some resources, but not additional to maybe do things better.
Yeah.
Or have more impact. I don't know, to give me a bit of a sense of that.
So when I looked over the years, I don't like as myself just to throw money into something, because I think sometimes, what's the benefit? You get what I mean. So if just as an example, so if I was going to pay a company, say like an education company, to go and deliver talks in a school about construction, so this could cost £10,000-15,000 for this to be delivered. I'm thinking, why am I spending that money? They don't never worked in construction. They haven't got the skills to talk about construction. They might have headline stuff that they've read, but they haven't got any personal experience. So how could they talk about construction? So that's just one example. I think there is ways there where you can spend money, but I think you have to really think about the benefits that it's going to bring before you're investing in spending a lot of money. Because I think a lot of the social value is sharing skills, a lot of the employability, a lot of the community stuff. We can bring more benefit using ours and our supply chain skills to support communities, to help them develop their projects, than paying someone else to do it. So as a company, we do have Vinci Foundation. So we have that, and people can apply, and our staff support that. So that's where we like to give our money. So there's like a verification process, and the charities go through that process. Because as someone says to me, can I have £10,000? I'm like, you really have to weigh it up and know that the money is getting spent where it should be.
Yeah. Have you got a particular focus that you personally like to, again, there's different projects being delivered in different parts of the country, but is there a one that you tend to look for the most, in terms of like what you get excited about the most when you're delivering social value? Is there a particular area? Because you mentioned before about like younger people getting exposure to the industry, but is there anything that you gravitate to the most?
So
being biased,
I think it's changed as I've gone through. So when I first started, it was education, all the careers later stuff, and I think we're there now. We're on that as a company. Now I'm on to young people who were like me, didn't get on well in school. This is quite my passion at the minute. but they don't know what they want to do. They don't know how to get anywhere. They've got no guidance. They just don't know. So that's my passion at the minute, to make sure that people aren't left behind. Because you could be a young person, left school, can't get a job, don't know what to do, and that could take you down different avenues where you don't want to go. So I don't know whether we talked about this last time, but I created the Community Skills Centre initiative.
Tell us more. You did, but tell us more.
So
for
it's basically targeting young people 16 to 24. There was a few barriers when I was creating this. Well, I noticed barriers to why these young people. There's like some companies don't let people under 18 onto a construction site, so they can't do work experience. These people weren't getting to try the industry. So basically, a community skills centre is what we put on our projects, and it's a training centre. So we deliver English, maths skills in a way that suits them. So a lot of these younger people, when we've been delivering this, 50% of these young people are neurodiverse.
50%?
50%.
Sorry, so 50% of the people who are coming to
our community skills centre are neurodiverse. And there's an attachment to that, why the education system isn't a model built for them. And this is why they've failed in school. So yeah, 50% of them neurodiverse.
Big number.
It is a lot. I didn't realise this when I first started. I just targeted young people, giving them a chance to try construction. So I thought that would be this. And then when you look at the people that we've engaged with, and they've had other barriers actually. It's not just they haven't got on in school. They've had other barriers that have not been met in that education environment. And I wanted to create an environment that works for them, environment where they can thrive, environment where they can learn in a way that suits them.
Wow.
So the Community Skills Centres delivers trade skills, so short trade skills, so learning bricklaying, plastering, painting and decorating, amongst other trade skills, but it's short, so they get to try every trade role, and in the hopes that they actually like one of them. Because you could go to college, leave school, go to college for 2 years and learn bricklaying, and you're like, I don't want to do that. I want to do painting and decorating. So it sort of takes out that wasted time as well. And then after, once they've got the level 1 qualification, if they want to go off and do that, they can do that. And we also do like English and maths in short bursts online, so they're not sitting in a classroom all day, and because they don't enjoy it. They're doing it in short bursts, so it works for them. So after, it's usually a 12-week course. After that, they go on for work experience with our supply chain on our projects. So
the supply chain, including subcontractors and stuff?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so everyone gets involved. The whole project gets involved.
Wow.
And then 50% of them have also gone into employment then, and apprenticeships after that.
So it's almost like you're giving them an opportunity to try before they buy.
Yep.
Of all these different roles, delivering in the program in a way that suits them.
Yep.
But it's interesting. I'm remembering this first conversation that we had. It's just, there was so much in there. But you could argue that me and you were of that category.
Yep.
When we were in school, we were of a particular mindset. But the curriculum didn't deliver to us in a way, and because the way you went into hairdressing, and you've had this mad little journey to where you are now. I had a similar journey, and it's because we sat outside this core
you don't learn by sitting and writing.
Yeah, no, no. And so that 50% number is remarkable. Yeah,
and you know what? It was really interesting. I've got 2 neurodiverse kids myself.
Okay.
So it was I didn't realise until when you started talking to people, and then you look at people's backgrounds and just the hard life these young people have. You can see why they've not got anywhere so far. And I think this is just a perfect inspiration to them, because I think some of them can't see an end goal. They don't think they're good enough to get a job. They don't think they're good enough to get into a decent role. But that's what I say when our team talks to them, and they say, listen, I started I started like you. I think a lot of people in the construction industry did. They didn't know what they wanted to do. They weren't very good at school. For them to talk to them people and say, he started where I am, and now he's a project manager.
So it's a role model. It's role modeling.
Models.
If you can see something's achievable, and he's like me.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to put it on site as well, and not in an external centre. Because if you watch a building go up, it's really inspiring, isn't it, to watch it progress and be involved. To be involved in that process. It's I think it really means something to them, because they can see where that job will take them, what they could be working on. If you're sitting in a training centre off site and doing that, you just think, I'm just doing the same thing every day.
Disconnected from the real world. See, that's think about that for a moment, like from a point of view of, okay, there's this movement called social value, where people exist within social value roles within a company, in this case construction, and think about what you've done with that particular project, where you're getting right into like the whole world of education, and you're building hearts and minds about possibilities for the future, and giving people confidence, either young men or women, to be able to, find things that they connect with and self-actualize into becoming good citizens, I suppose. And that's all come from this thing called social value. Because this is one of the things that like really blew me away when I first started to learn about social values, that it's still so untapped around the potential for what it can actually do for society. Where you've got a local authority that's being hollowed out by austerity, but you've got all these amazing skills of people within like a construction centre like a Vinci, and people like yourself who then set up this community skills hub, and the impact that it has, and then getting data from that around like 50% being in Euro debit. It's amazing. Yeah, it's really really admire and respect you for that. It's
thanks.
Yeah, it's amazing that exists.
Yeah, it's just again, it's looking at what we can do and how do we make it work better.
Yeah.
Because when we were like taking young people for work experience, some of them weren't ready for work experience. So how do you get them? Yeah. How do we get them to that place where they are ready?
Yeah. It's not a one size fits all. Yeah. Okay, you're going to go for 2 weeks work experience when you're in, I don't know the years no more, when it was used to be fifth year, I don't know what the new language is. But you just go for 2 weeks to JD Sports or retail or something. Anywhere. And you might be ready, or, whereas it's different in that way.
Yeah, I think a lot of the social value is around employing people. So employing people. But you've got so many people that are not ready for employment.
Yeah.
And it's that stepping back and saying, so yeah, this local authority government want me to employ people. They want me to employ people who are unemployable. So how do you do that? How do we do that? So the end goal might be employment, but that might not be on this construction project. That might be on a different construction project, or it might be they're employable once we've left and they've spent some time with somebody else. But it's the stepping stones. And I think we have to appreciate more the stepping stones to get to the end goal.
I like that. The stepping stones aspect of it as a visual in my mind, like thinking about helping someone, putting the stones in place for them, and it's not just one stone in front of the other. There's stones that can go this way and this way.
Because if it was that easy, they'd already have a job.
Yeah, of course.
I think we have to look at that sometimes. Yeah. If it was easy to go from A to B, they'd already be at B.
Life's not that simple, it's not linear. It's very complex, and unfortunately, like a lot of the systems that are in society are very linear.
Yes,
and people just don't go one foot in front of the A to B to C to D. It's you go A to C.
Like going back to school, the school will say, "Well, they'll tell your jobs like a director, a manager, and all these big fancy roles that you should aim to be," but they don't tell you about the steps how to get there. And you think, "Oh, I'm not ready for that, so I'm not good enough."
Interesting. It's interesting. There's a lot of similarities to my own life as a young man when I left school. But I want to touch on something. So you were talking about it's not just about the numbers, so measuring social impact. let me start again because I'll just so touching on the project you've just talked about there, one of the things I want to move into now as we come and bring this interview to a close and wrap it up is how do you measure the impact of a project like that? You know, when you're delivering something as part of like a local authority project, like, but you're using a framework. Is it just like the numbers, or is it qualitative? Like, tell me about how you managed and measured the impact of a project you just talked about there.
So I think it's not just a one size fits all when measuring. Your different types of social value has to be measured differently. So we have KPIs and we have targets, just so we have somewhere that we need to reach. So we know we need to do this, we need to get overall. But that one could turn into 100 hours, or that could turn into changing someone's life. So we measure it in a number of different ways. So how we've supported people, what the impact has been on them. So we like to ask people what you've got out of this and ask them their stories. We measure hours spent and capture stories. So I think I create a thing called the social value booklet at the end of all of our projects.
For Vinci?
For Vinci.
Internally?
Yeah, and we share it with our clients as well. So it's got the numbers, got the number of education activities we've delivered, and number of people we've engaged with, and a number of people have got into employment, etc. But that's one page. Like some of these are 50, 60 page booklets of the events that we've actually delivered and what's the outcomes of it.
Nice.
So if I give you a piece of paper with numbers on, some KPIs, and add numbers on, and you'd be like, what does that mean? Well, what does it mean? So I think you need to make sure we're capturing what it actually means, because if numbers to anyone don't mean anything, it's like, yeah, well done, you've done one activity, but how's that benefited the community?
Because that's ultimately what's key. What's benefited the community?
You can't change and you can't develop what you're delivering unless you know what it's benefiting.
Stories.
It's the story.
Yeah, the story.
And people want to read stories, don't want to read numbers.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they're both important.
Yeah, they're both important.
And the numbers don't lie, but at the same time, it's like, where's the hearts and the minds? Like, where's being the change on the front line in the community? You know, you're like in a particular school, or where you've got these school leavers of 16 to 18, and like, what's their story, where they've been able to get this apprenticeship, and what's that mean to them? Like, that's what's important, and that's what people connect into. Yeah, I agree.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so just one last question, and then I'll let you run back to witness. Where do you see the future of social value? Where's it going?
Someone asked me this the other week, actually.
It's a great question. Save the best till last, Danielle.
So I sort of answer this in two different ways. I sort of answer where I hope that it will be.
Okay.
But then where I do actually think it might go. So my hope will be that our clients and the government models gain more of an understanding of what we can deliver and what actually works and what is actually benefiting the community. That's where I want it to get to. It's this sticking targets on construction companies and not actually realizing what they are or what the benefit other things can bring or what benefits they do actually bring. And where I think it's going to go, though, is more restrictive KPIs.
More restrictive KPIs.
Yeah, I can just see it. And are they going to be the right KPIs? I don't know. That's just what I've got a feeling.
Let's hope not too
Let's hope
restrictive.
not. Yeah.
Because there's an opportunity here, I believe, and other social value managers who are similar to you, very progressive and forward thinking, who also push the boundaries and see the opportunities, and it'd be a shame for it to become locked down in a particular way to tick a box.
Yeah, we need to stay away from box ticking.
Yeah.
I think whoever's creating these rules and regulations for social value, I think they really need to engage with the social value community and find out what works and what doesn't work. I get that we need to stretch our boundaries and we need to be pushed to do, otherwise nothing will happen. But I think it has to be beneficial to the communities as well.
That's why it exists. And maybe when central governments write out these policies and frameworks, or these third parties write out these frameworks, is that they're engaging, like you say, with practitioners who are doing the work on the front line, because it's all about the community. That's where the benefit lies, and that's why we do what we do.
Yep, it is.
Well, Danielle, it's been an amazing conversation. Yeah, it didn't disappoint. I remember when we first spoke, I was like, got to get Danielle back to do a podcast at some point. So thank you so much for sharing some of your wisdom and some of your insights. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.